Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Anybody? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Hump day, hump day, hump day.
Hey everybody, and welcome to this month's episode of Lifting the Veil. Yeah, we're finally back in action, so good to have you back, Franz. Welcome back.
Good to be back. It's good to see you again, and everybody else.
Good to see you too, brother. Looks like you're holding a nice pose there.
Yeah, I see my screen. I'm a little frozen, so I don't know if this is gonna work.
It'll probably unfreeze. I was thinking about getting you a computer. Would you? Are you familiar with like Windows? If I got you like a Windows computer?
A little bit. I haven't had a lot of practice with the 11.
Yeah, I have Windows 11 on my new computer, but
I was looking into it.
I hardly use it. Yeah, you can get a pretty decent computer for what we do. I mean, if you're just going to use it for streaming and stuff, you can get a pretty decent one for a couple $100.
So, I wanted to share a little video to start this off. But if I'm frozen, I don't know if you can see what I'm sharing.
I can see the screen's up.
All right, well, you don't need to see me in motion, I guess. So you can see the screen, right? We're going to give this a shot. Bear with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to, I really like this video. Once you watch it, once we get to watch it, and if it works, you will understand.
Training fleas requires a glass jar with a lid.
It's working good.
The fleas are placed inside the jar and the lid is then sealed. They are left undisturbed for 3 days. Then, when the jar is opened, the fleas will not jump out. In fact, the fleas will never jump higher than the level set by the lid. Their behaviour is now set for the rest of their lives. And when these fleas reproduce, their offspring will automatically follow their example.
That's crazy.
Okay. Yes. So the point of that is to get you to think, think outside the box a little bit. That we've been saying that, you're conditioned and it's generational, and that we are the same way as those fleas. We're in a jar and we're not jumping or thinking any higher than the lid has set the limit for us.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, so I don't know, I think I'm still frozen, but
yeah,
my screen's working.
Yeah, everything else is working, yeah.
Perfect. As long as you can hear me and you can see this, then we're good. So
on your screen, there's probably that little 3 dots where you got a little camera thing at the bottom. For the Google Meet. See the little camera? Yeah, right there. Click it. Shut it off and then turn it back on. Let's see if it comes back on.
It's not turning back on.
Yeah, you might be using up all the RAM in your.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I haven't really cleaned out any of the shows we've put together, so I have a lot in there. So, all right. So that the video was to get to you. I want you to start thinking above the lid, per se. So we've talked a lot about the Defense Agency Research Projects Agency, DARPA.
Yeah.
But it was originally called ARPA, ARPA, and it was already in effect and ARPA long before 1958. 1958 is when they added the word defense, because everything's in the name of defending ourselves, defense, you know.
Right, it sits better with the American people.
It does.
Oh, it's for defense. It's good.
So
Yeah.
that defense is the cap on our jar, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, I could totally see that, yeah.
Okay, so on February 7th, 1958, Neil McRoy, the Department of Defense Secretary, issued a DOT directive. That's Department of Defense directive. That directive number is 5105.15. And that was establishing the Advanced Research Projects Agency into the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. The first primary research thrust focused on.
Oh, please bear with us. We're having technical difficulties. Yeah, which goes to show you, it figures, we'll finally get back online, and, Satan will come at us any way he can. And if he can't have us be banned, then he will come against us with our connections. So he will be back, I'm sure. Just give him a minute. Thank you for your patience. While he's gone, I will just say welcome to everybody who is viewing the show. It's good to be back. Obviously, I had a strike for the last Bible study I did. I was going off on certain things you're not supposed to talk about. And so, yeah, too much truth for YouTube. So, you know how they do it. So they gave me the boot for a week and pulled down my video. Oh, here he is. Let's see. I can hear you.
I'm here.
Yeah, I can hear you. Got no.
It's clicking back on. Yeah.
Oh, now you're moving around. Hey, look at that. It's Franz, everybody.
Just me. Everything else was still working. I was still going on, and I happened to glance over, and I'm like, oh. Wonderful. Okay, so.
Yeah, you had just gotten to the bottom of that page you were showing.
The numbers of the ARPA.
Yeah, you just finished reading it was in part of the space program. And,
all right.
Yeah.
Because the numbers were all relevant.
Yeah, I saw it was February 7th, 1958, which obviously the 19 and the 58. And also the February 7th, that's 27 or 72, which is, 66 plus 6.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And then the objective or the issue number was 1505.15.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay. Well,
which was
pick up where I left off. We'll get back to this.
Yeah.
I apologize again.
No worries, man. We can't help, these things. These things happen.
Yep. All right. Here we are.
So yeah, that's 555 and 101. So
Yep. Yep.
yeah.
Perfect. So the first thing I want to talk about is and I want to think outside of the jar's cap, the lid to the jar. We're trying to break free of the generational conditioning, and it's part of lifting the veil. I tell people that you haven't had an original thought. You're tapping into a thought field where those thoughts are programmed. And once you have, an imagination, you're still just tapping into a thought field that's preset for you, and you're going to the lid. This is to try to provoke initial thoughts, or original thoughts, original ideas. So, with everything said until this point, and the computer freezing, we're going to jump right into some of the projects, and I'll tie it into little hints I've thrown out there in the last few shows. So this is micro electrical mechanical systems. They call them MEMS, HIMEMS, hybrid insect micro electromechanical system. That's a HIMEM. Basically exactly what it sounds like, a hybrid insect micro. So it's a living insect. I kind of touched base on it before with like the elephant beetle, I think.
Is this like those bugs that are flying and dropping all over Venezuela or whatever, or the Philippines?
Cicadas? Yes, there is a high percentage chance of pretty much any insect anywhere being a micro electrical mechanical system. It's nothing new under the sun. They've been doing this a long, long time.
Yeah.
The Advanced Research Projects Agency, ARPA, gained the D 1972. So the first slide one I was telling you was 1958. They were publicly coming out with ARPA. That was February 7th. But then they added the D in 1972, which again is the same numbers.
Yeah, it's just 27 to 72, yeah.
Yeah, it briefly revised ARPA in 1993, only to have the D restored in 96. So, they go back and forth. But they've been around since
There's definitely a significance to that. We'd have to look into it some more, but there's definitely, they did that for a reason.
They absolutely did.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it like that, that would be interesting to look further into.
Yeah.
So more on the micro electrical mechanical systems. MEMS is the technology of microscopic devices incorporating both electronic and moving parts. MEMS are made up of components between 1 and 100 micrometers in size, 0.001 to 0.1 millimeters. And MEMS devices generally range in size from 20 micrometers to a millimeter, 1.0 millimeter. Although components arranged in arrays, digital micro mirror devices can be more than 1,000 millimeters squared. You can't see that with the eye.
Yeah, that's small stuff.
That is small. So, when I'm machining, I'll machine within a couple thousands. So your average hair on your head is 10 thousandths. And a millimeter is each thousand, like, so your hair strand is 10 thousandths. Each thousand, 1, 2, 3, 4, each thousand is 10 millimeters. And then that's broken down into the micrometers.
Yeah, that's little.
I have another picture. I'll get into the sizes again. The Hybrid Insect Micro Electrical Mechanical System, HIMEMS, is a project of DARPA, a unit of the United States Department of Defense, created in 2006. This unit's goal is the creation of tightly coupled machine-insect interfaces by placing micromechanical systems inside the insects during the early stages of metamorphosis. After implantation, the insect cyborg could be controlled by sending electrical impulses to their muscles. The primary application is surveillance. The project was created with the ultimate goal of delivering an insect within 5 meters of a target located 100 meters away. So this was in 2008 that they were talking about what they were doing. With the University of Michigan demonstrated a cyborg unicorn beetle. I've showed that in a previous episode show. So that's a really big beetle, probably about that big. But what they're talking about is they're making this insect that's biologically being born, going through the metamorphosis stages, and then they implant the micromechanical systems.
So they're like cyborgs.
And that honestly is the comic book version of what they're really doing, because they can genetically or say 3D print the DNA for this bug and then grow it to have these micromechanical systems to grow with it.
Dude, that is just so disturbing. Just the implications of that alone are
That is just insane. Yeah, because now we're going to go thinking outside that lid. We're going to jump higher than that lid, because yes, it's sugar coated right there. They're just saying we got some beetles this big that was born naturally, and then during its metamorphosis, we just put some mechanical system into it. And they were saying that in the early 2000s, they were doing that 40 years before. What they're doing now is so much more. Like the mechanical system is growing.
Yeah, this
it's a biological
is
mechanical
up like fallen angel stuff.
Yes, it is.
100%, dude.
Yes, it is. Yeah, that's biblical.
Yeah.
For many years, beginning in 1994. All right, so we're still on the microelectrical mechanical systems. Sorry, it takes practice to spit it out fast, and sometimes, anyways, provided substantial funding in the then emerging arena of microelectrical mechanical systems. So now in this section, they're talking about they were doing this in 94. So by the time 2008, and they're talking about the big unicorn beetle, they're already way past that. These researchers cleverly adapted standard semiconductor fabrication methods to fabricate miniature mechanical structures such as flexible membranes, cantilevers, and even trains of integrated gears, and integrated these with electronics to create a managerie of MEM systems. So like a cantilever would be like a one-hinged thing. So on a microscopic, they can make a single cell organism and put get it to grow with a mechanical cantilever. And then they can program this single cell to go around and find other cells and then push them around.
Jeez.
And that's the like I said, the comic book surface. Right. So these integrated gears, electronics to create MEM systems among the target deliverables for the Department of Defense were initial navigation devices for smartening up weapons and tracking soldiers. miniaturized laboratories on a chip.
Dude, that's
For
like
such-
that's like a term that should not exist.
No, it shouldn't.
Right?
No, no, no. It's for smartening up your weapons.
Yeah.
Like we've been smartening up our phones for a while. Same difference. And tracking soldiers with miniaturized laboratories on chips. For such uses as detecting biological weapons in the field and optical switches and displays. DARPA's patient support is widely credited with adding consequential momentum to the field of MEMS, which since has blossomed into multi-billion-dollar market in the military and civilian sectors. So, like I said, what they're doing on single cells and particles and making them a biological micro electrical mechanical system, there's Walmart's teamed up with scientists to release bees, micro bees, that go out and help pollinate all the other bees, because the world's bee supply that's helping pollinate all these plants are dying out. So they've created bee drones, and you can totally look it up. Just type in bee drone in Walmart. Okay, so again, that bee drone in Walmart is the lid on our jar. When we're talking about these things, we're going outside. We're going higher. Okay, it's a multi-billion-dollar market. How many micro electrical, mechanical mosquitoes do they need? How many bugs, insects? So if these things are still biological, cyborgs in a sense, and they can still reproduce, they're reproducing out there in the world.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, because then when they reproduce, right, their babies are gonna grow like they grew. Because they're gonna have the same DNA, so they're gonna grow. They're gonna have little robot babies.
Absolutely, and they'll grow with the same programmable, controllable microelectrical system, because it's now biological.
And they'll hook them up to the network. They'll probably just like Bluetooth automatically to the network.
You're absolutely right. And the next generation that's being born into that won't have any traumatization of being genetically modified. So it's going to be more of a natural thing for them to. And I'm talking microscopic scale. See this picture here, this big white part? Yeah. That's a hair. That's one of your average human hairs here. And that's 10,000ths.
That's crazy.
Okay? And what they're using to, implant, this thing is what they're implanting. This isn't like a piece of it. The micro electrical magnetic, the system is traveling through this to get implanted into whatever organism.
Wow, dude, that's crazy, man. That's disturbing.
They're a carbon filament. Okay. So, moving on. DARPA teams up with NASA for what they call as the Dragonfly project.
Of course it is, dude. Dragonflies have always seemed kind of robotic to me, too, right?
Dude, right?
They get all shiny and metal looking, and they're just like...
They are metallic looking and mechanical looking, and but when you start digging into this and how long they've been doing it, I wonder if we've ever even really seen a real natural dragonfly. It's because this Dragonfly project is lightweight robotic systems on their planned Liberty Lifter demonstrator with a large flying boat similar size and capacity of the sea ship, blah, blah, blah. So They're going to throw it in here with all this experimental space plane programs. Right? But they're literally making dragonflies. So, like I said, I'm machining, and I work with 2000s, and I know the average human hair is 10,000s, right? So, and a lot of this area, the manufacturing and machine shops do aerospace and make microscopic little things for aerospace. But I have never seen anything this tiny, per se, a dragonfly. Right? Because a dragonfly is ginormous compared to what they're doing.
I guess that's a good. I guess I could just say it like this: if I was DARPA, that's probably the insect I would pick. It already looks like a robot, so like it hovers, it lands on people, and people are like, "Oh, cool, look at it," So nobody's trying to kill the thing,
right? And they can fly really high.
Yeah,
they can get pretty high. They can go. A lot of places, water insect or you're a high altitude insect. And I agree with you. It's a good universal or a versatile insect.
Have you seen? Sorry to interrupt. Have you seen the new Dune?
I haven't seen it, but I've seen a lot of. Oh man, with the blue eyes and the blue bloods.
Yeah. So, but they fly around, and their ships are dragonflies.
No way.
Yeah, their wings come out from the back, and they flap just like a dragonfly, and they fly around in these mechanical dragonflies, dude. That's crazy. It just came to my mind. I was like, oh, wait a minute.
No, I've been kind of wanting to watch it, but at the same time, I haven't seen the first one completely. I would have to. I don't know. I like to decode them too and see what things they're putting in our faces.
Yeah, that one's straight up Antichrist, man.
I can imagine.
Straight up. You like, you watch it and you're like, oh, this is so obvious. That's why I didn't do a decode video on it, because it's like, you can see what they're doing. It's
absolutely,
yeah, it's completely like right in your
blatant
face.
Yeah, right. No, and that's and I as much as I go into research and for these things and our projects that we do here, I can tell by a preview, like, wow, that's so blatantly in your face. I just don't want to, But all right, so here, this other article talks about DARPA's insect allies, the dragonfly, the big beetle. They're old tech. They're using smaller and smaller. See, here's DARPA back in 2009 talking about using bees to detect landmines.
Really?
University of Montana conducting research for them to train honeybees to detect landmines. They're training honeybees to sniff out unexploded mines that still pepper the Balkans. So, here they're going to push this to you like, oh, these are horrendous wars like Vietnam, and people are still getting killed by landmines. We can go back and right a few wrongs by having trained honeybees and sugarcoat it. That's just the big sugarcoating. If they're making these, they can train bees, and they can make a bee, or they can make a micro mechanical system and go sniff out landmines.
Okay. Right. So they're taking their sinister project and putting some frosting on it, going, look how sweet this is. And the public's like, oh, what a good thing. Yeah, they're using them to
right? That's the name of
saving human lives. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes. But think about it. 2009, they're openly talking about these bees they can train that they've been doing for 40 years.
Right.
Imagine what they're doing right now. Let's not stop jumping or thinking at that lid level. Let's think outside of the jar.
Right.
I'm gonna go back if it's blank. All right. So this is where I get into delivering genetic material into cells. So showing you that they're doing what I just described about dragonflies, mosquitoes, beetles, and bees, that they're doing it on the cell, on a molecular level.
Just be careful.
Viral vectors.
Be careful with this one.
I know. If you hear me, I know I can mangle up some words sometimes, and I can trip over my own big lips here. But if you hear me ridiculously pronounce something, I'm trying to not. Okay, so we won't get too far into in these what should we call them? The little circle bugs, whatever, the microbugs.
Yeah.
Viral vectors are modified microbugs designed to deliver genetic material into cells. This process can be formed inside an organism or in a cell culture. Viral vectors have widespread applications in basic research, agriculture, and in the medicine. Viral vectors, the most effective means of gene transfer. That's GENE, not the jeans you wear.
Not my Levi's 501s.
Correct. So the most effective means of gene transfer to modify specific cell type or tissue can be manipulated to express therapeutic genes. Several varieties types are currently being investigated for use to deliver genes into cells, provided either transient or permanent transgene expression.
You know what that reminds me of? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, say it.
You remember in I Am Legend? That's what kicked everything off. They used the measles or something to deliver the cure for cancer. Right?
Correct.
Yeah, that's what this sounds like.
Because to be able to transfer the measles genes to the cancer genes or vice versa and be acceptable in the cells or the tissues of Will Smith.
yeah.
They're using these methods, viral vectors. But think of the dragonfly or that beetle. But it's this.
Right.
Do you understand?
Yes. Yeah.
This thing can live in a single drop of water. That's how small it is. Many of them can live in a drop of water.
Yeah, that's crazy. Because if they can live in a drop of water, they can live in other places.
Anywhere. Now, if you remember, the first slide talked about what DARPA was saying back in 1958. What they're researching was missiles, space, and blatant terms, aerosols. All right, so horizontal gene transfer, HGT, redirects. Sorry, they have little pop-ups where they can send you somewhere else. I started to read that. Horizontal gene transfer, HGT, or lateral gene transfer, LGT, See, here's repeating letters from the letter community pop up in a lot of this. It's to purpose.
Yeah.
So this LGT is the movement of genetic material between organisms other than by the vertical transmission of DNA from patient to offspring, reproducing. HTT is an important factor in the evolution of many organisms. HTT is influencing scientific understanding of higher order evolution, while more significantly shifting perspectives on bacterial evolution. It's a mechanism for the spread of antibiotic resistance in bacteria, an important evolution of bacteria. But here they have this little diagram here of understanding the higher order of evolution, and they call it the tree of life for vertical and horizontal gene transfer.
Yeah, that's kind of disturbing.
Really is.
This is the stuff that people say is impossible. You can't change your genes.
They do say it's impossible.
You have to wear those Levi's your whole life.
Pretty much. And you know, you're completely insane and way out in left field for thinking above that lid, you know. So I left off with the evolution of bacteria that can degrade novel compounds such as human-created pesticides. And in the evolution, maintenance and transmission of virulence. It often involves temperate bacteriophages and plasmids. They're like the beginning stages of bacterial, and like the plasma covering or plasma surrounding of a cell per se. I don't know exactly how to say it, but genes responsible for antibiotic resistance is one species of bacteria can be transferred to another species of bacteria through various mechanisms. Transformation, transduction, and conjugation, sequentially arming the antibiotic-resistant genes, recipients against antibiotics. The rapid spread of antibiotic resistance genes in this manner becoming a challenge to manage in the field of ecological factors may also play a role in antibiotic-resistant genes. So they're saying a bacteria that can combat a antibiotic or another ingestible that should help you get better will actually, it's genetically modified so much already that it's already resistant, and a more any bacteria or what am I thinking of? Gets rid of infections. The medicine that gets rid of infections,
Antibiotics.
that bacteria, the antibiotic, right?
Yeah.
That they're already resistant, but another bacteria that is more resistant can transfer its resistance to another. So, say Jay and I are out in the world, and somebody's shooting at Jay, and he's not bulletproof, but I am, because I've somehow evolved bulletproof skin. I can get close enough to Jason and give him some of my bulletproof skin, is basically what it's saying.
Right.
That's not natural.
No, that sounds like that thing I can't talk about.
Right.
Yeah. Where, you know, like that a snake does when it's outgrown itself.
It sheds, right.
Yeah.
Right. So the bacteriophages Faji. I don't know exactly how to.
No, I don't.
Faji.
You got me, dude.
But this is their little. Just look at this little thing. This is a microscopical bacterial. This is microscopic. You can't see this, but this is what they give you. It kind of looks like a spider hand grenade.
It's totally a spider with like a pillar and an infection, right?
The bacteria Faji, phage. It's a virus that infects and replicates within bacteria. It infects and replicates.
Yeah.
And the term is derived from bacteria and a Greek phagine, mean to devour.
Oh, that's nice.
And are composed of proteins that encapsulate DNA and RNA genome. Yes. I can't, without saying too much.
Yeah, people are going to just
what we've lived through.
Yeah.
Right?
People are just going to have to read between the lines a lot.
You're going to.
But we got a smart group of people that watch the channel, so they totally they're picking up what you're putting down.
Absolutely, I'm sure they're picking up what we're laying down, and if not, I highly encourage you, pick any word up here on the screen and just start looking into it.
Yeah.
Because once you start digging, it just goes so deep. I jokingly laughed with Jason when we started that I cut about an hour out of this, and we're just getting into it. Okay, so the Faji, I've been calling it Faji.
It must be Italian.
It's got to be
Fragile. It must be Italian.
So it comes from recombination DNA, genetic recombination. Genetic recombination is an exchange of genetic material between different organisms, which leads to production of offspring with combinations of traits that differ from those found in either parent. The material, especially by crossing over in chromosomes or by the artificial joining of segments of DNA from different organisms. So they're saying, like me giving Jason some of my bulletproof skin, we can, take off some of that bulletproof skin and combine it together, and we both could parent a new growing human from that. That's a rough explanation, but I can't go. You just got to think about that. That's impossible, right? But they're doing it on a small scale.
So
like
technically, if I had a wife and we were to say have some medicine that maybe had some sort of effect on us, and then we had a child, that the effect that it had on us would be passed on to the child.
Correct. And that was what I said earlier about like the beetle, the parent beetle being genetically modified. It went through some type of traumatization. It went through crossing of the chromosomes.
Right.
And then the offspring after that is born with it. It is born with the ability to have the DNA to accept these changes, but grow and evolve with it all into one.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we're watching all this stuff play out, man.
We are. Absolutely. Right in front of our face. Over and over. Right? Recombinant DNA, our DNA molecules, are DNA molecules formed by laboratory methods of genetic recombination, such as molecular cloning, that brings together genetic material from multiple sources, creating sequences that would not otherwise be found in a genome. So that is exactly what I was just saying about, like Jason and I and having the bulletproof skin. All right. Meaning we could just take some of the sequences out of both of our DNA and then genetically modify or clone another living organism with bulletproof skin, but during that process it might evolve and have a weapon to shoot back with instead of a finger. I'm just using that as an example, but it's 100% of what they're doing, the technology they have.
Right. And we're learning all this, just for the record, from Wikipedia. We're reading it verbatim.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to put that out there for no particular reason whatsoever.
Recombinant DNA is the general name for a piece of DNA that has been created by combining two or more fragments from different sources. Okay, now think, initially, we're going to go to that lid. We're thinking, when we hear that, we're thinking DNA, general name for pieces of DNA. So now we're just splicing a man and a woman's DNA and then putting the egg back into the woman to create it. No, we could take plant, we could take fungus, we could take animal and human.
Yeah, remember we were talking on the last Wednesday show we did about how they don't even need people to make babies anymore.
They don't. And these babies are not 100% a tree or 100% a human.
Yeah.
So recombinant DNA is possible because DNA molecules from all organisms share the same chemical structure, differing only in the nucleotide sequence. Recombinant DNA molecules are sometimes called chimeric DNA because they can be made of material from two different species, like the mythical chimera.
Yeah, dude.
They're straight out saying it's genetic engineering, and they're creating chimeras. And if you think saying a tree human is so ridiculous and so out of that lid, you don't want to jump higher than the lid then, because that's where I'm trying to get you to think about. Because there could possibly be trees out there that are teeming with human DNA. There could be humans.
Right. And I'm just going to add this in here because there's a lot of people in here that weren't in here at the beginning.
Okay.
You're probably hearing Franz refer to the lid and to the jar. At the beginning of the video, Franz showed us a little YouTube video how they trained these fleas. They put them in a jar for 3 days and put the lid on, and the fleas would jump in the jar for 3 days, and they figured out where the lid was. And then after the 3 days, they opened the jars, and the fleas would never jump out of the jar because they were trained to only jump as high as right before the lid. And then when they had children, the children fleas would also mimic the parents and not jump out of the jar, so they could literally leave the jar there for eternity, and the fleas would never jump out. So that's
would never jump out.
Yeah, so if you're here talking about, getting out of the jar or hitting the lid, or that's what he's referring to, just for those
That's
of you
what I'm
who
referring
weren't here.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next generation of fleas in that jar were born with that knowledge being, that programming being in their DNA. Here's my limit.
Gen Z?
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry. That one I couldn't resist, man. I just couldn't resist. And if there's any Gen Z out there, I'm just playing around.
No, it's true, but it's been going on for multiple generations. But the point of this was, they're straight out saying a chimera, and it's not mythical. Chimeras are biblical.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. When the fallen angels were on the earth in Noah's day, that's what dinosaurs are.
Yep.
Those are chimeras. Those were things that were created by the fallen angels, and exactly what's happening now was happening then. A lot of people sometimes think that because it was in the past, they were like cavemen and they didn't have any technology. No, the fallen angels were here. They had way better technology than we have. Look at the buildings they built. They've lasted thousands
Yep.
of years and they're immaculate. And we couldn't make anything like that nowadays. Like they had technology that we wouldn't even begin to understand. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Then I continued. This is the bottom of that page that says chimera.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The DNA sequence is used to construct recombining DNA molecules can originate from any species. For example, plant DNA can be joined with bacterial DNA. Human DNA can be joined with fungal DNA. In addition, DNA sequences that do not occur anywhere in nature can be created by chemical synthesis of DNA. Chemical synthesis of DNA. We just said you don't need a man and a female, two humans, to create another baby.
Right.
You don't need, so I don't need to stand close to Jason to give him my bulletproof skin. I can just give him a combination and he can create his own. Grow it.
I find it interesting that they gave an example. The second example was human can be joined with fungal.
Human.
Remember
Fungal,
that
right?
zombie fungus they were pushing in that show,
Yep.
Last of Them or whatever?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's 100% true.
Pretty interesting they used that combination. They didn't say a human in a tree. No, they they are
Right.
very specific. Yeah.
That is why I was just a minute ago using tree,
Yeah.
because I knew this fungal was coming up, right? This is just few sentences after saying chimera.
Yeah.
So it goes on to talk about incorporated recombinant DNA molecules using recombinant DNA technology and synthetic DNA. Any DNA sequence can be created and introduced into living organisms. Again, any DNA can be created and introduced into a living organism. So here, when they say DNA technology and synthetic DNA, they're talking about fallen angel technology and fallen angel DNA.
Yeah.
Okay? And they say it over here because look, we get under here, genetically modified organisms. We got bacteria, viruses, animals, mammals, fish, insects, plants, rice, soybean, potato. History of regulation, substantial equivalence, category protocol, biosafety, and that's the history. It's been there forever. They were doing it. It was in the Bible. Right? And these techniques of molecular cloning, recombinant DNA, gene delivery. Now here, listen to all these transformation, transfection, transduction.
Transgender.
You never heard so much exactly.
Yep.
Never heard so much trans until the last few years.
Right.
Am I wrong?
No.
Right. So, and then it says right here in parentheses, CRISPR, Talon and CRISPR. But here they're trying to set that lid. But applications are genetically modified crops, food, gene therapy, and designer babies. So if we try to talk about designer babies,
Yeah.
you're crazy and it's not real. So this is going to jump me right into cybernetics. Biorobotics is an interdisciplinary science that combines the fields of biomedical engineering, cybernetics, and robotics. to develop new technologies that integrate biology with mechanical systems to develop more efficient communication, alter genetic information, and create machines that imitate biological systems. Imitate biological systems. Imitate or replace, or become both. So what they're doing is creating that beetle. Like I said, that's cybernetics and robotics, but the bioengineering would be controlling it, creating it from the beginning, born with. Cybernetics focuses on communications and systems of living organisms and machines that can be applied and combined with multiple fields of study such as biology, mathematics, computer science, engineering, and much more wonderful things that we can do, like sniff out landmines with bees.
Right. Dude, I was going to interrupt you for a minute.
No, absolutely.
I was looking at the name CRISPR and I was like, why is it spelled like that? So I was like, I'm going to do the numbers. So it's 83, bro, which is 3 8s. 8, 8,
Yep.
8. It is a portal into something awful. So I just wanted to share that real quick.
No, thank you. I've thought about that too. I'm like, I wonder what the numbers are, but of course it would be.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
It's not surprising. I'm giggling because it's not surprising.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I'm more surprised that I find myself being surprised.
Even if you put the E in there, it would be 88. So either way, yeah, pretty crazy. Sorry, go on.
All right, this discipline, the cybernetics discipline, and they call it a discipline, but it's like a branch or a area of this technology. This discipline falls under the branch of biorobotics because it's combined field of study between biological bodies and mechanical systems. Studying these two systems allow advanced analysts of functions and processes of each system as well as the interaction between them. So once we create or have grown a genetically modified insect to be born or evolve with these technologies, this discipline, this branch of cybernetics will get a better understanding of how all the biological mechanical processes that functions and systems function. So basically, how well the first gen of this born mechanical, robotic, biological system, how much of the biological and the mechanical actually communicates, how well it does, and think about every generation after that, because as it continues this life cycle of these genetically modified biological biorobotics, because then a few generations. Imagine if I shared my bulletproof skin with Jason, and then we became great grandparents per se. What we created now was able to reproduce itself in whatever way, and it becomes more normal, more what you are. Its system. And its interaction and how it continues to pass down these traits and these new fake unnatural systems, if that makes sense.
It's like that new Terminator that didn't know it was a Terminator.
Right. So that Terminator is like a second generation. Imagine that thing reproducing and what its kid can evolve and do. Yeah. Thank you. That was good.
This is straight up mixing iron with clay.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And they're not. They do comic book But at the same time, if you read the fine print, they said Crimea.
Yeah.
So,
They
and if I'm
admitted
so
it.
crazy, this is right off of you can go to DARPA, look online, look onto their site, find their sites. Then there's definitely different avenues to take. This is the BTO, the Biological Technology Office. Sorry, DARPA's Biological Technology Office develops capabilities that embrace the unique properties of biology and applies those features to revolutionize how the United States protects its warfighters. Again, now this is where I meant when the comic book, they sugarcoat it. So this biological office is helping the Department of Defense expand technology-driven capabilities to thrust areas warfighter readiness, to support readiness, health, and recovery, and operational biotechnology to create operational advantages and sustainable operations. That is, again, I just read you a whole nother word salad.
It's like the super soldier.
Absolutely. So now my bulletproof skin is, if you manage to upgrade your gun to penetrate my bulletproof skin, my skin can now advance, develop a strategy to evolve from this new breakthrough and regenerate itself.
You're like, oh, update.
Yep. So now you figured out how to shoot my bulletproof skin. My skin figured out how to evolve and heal itself rapidly, and then make itself more bulletproof, longer, and faster. If you're a soldier, you now have you're set. Our muscles can only go so far. We can only do so much. No matter, that's why they're making super soldiers. But still, that brings us to another lid on the jar of muscle and understanding and physical capabilities with our natural biological bodies. So now these technologies, they can pump technologies to your legs so you can run faster and stand longer. We get tired after being awake for 12 hours. Now you're fighting in a war that may last 48 straight hours, and you have to be ready to shoot and duck 24/7 for 48 hours. You're going to be awake. Like, they create a delivery system, like they're feeding meth to these soldiers, and it gives the same effects as meth would, but with no side effects.
Right. Yeah.
And they call this Be Safe.
Of course they do.
Mm-hmm. Safely inhibiting gene editors. The DARPA Broad Spectrum Antagonists for Editors, or Be Safe program, aims to develop platform technologies for higher potent inhibitors and multiple classes, types, and species of editors with enhanced activity. So, like, without making the human look like a cricket, we can give that human's legs the cricket's abilities to jump 5 times its height. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, be wary of people whose legs bend the other way.
So continuing down this page on DARPA, right under Be Safe, is the streamlining delivery modalities for biologic therapeutics to improve patient outcomes. And this is called Hermes.
Of course it is.
And it's got the little foot with wings. DARPA's Hermes program aims to overcome challenges associated with broad intercellular delivery of biologics and diverse cell and tissue types by developing new delivery modalities that provide systematic distribution with limited side effects.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to read. You're gonna have to read through the fine print on that one.
Yeah.
But it kind of goes along with what I said is like, you know, your troops are overseas right now, eating an MRE, which is a meal ready to eat, and they're just eating some tuna on crackers real quick before they head out. But it's like a meth or a crack. You know, it keeps them awake, wired out, and intensely alert and aware without any side effects.
Yeah. Definitely not growing any exoskeletons. That's normal. Remember District 9? Did you ever see that movie?
Mm-hmm.
With that alien,
I liked that movie.
he opened that canister and he started like changing into one of those bugs.
See, now that's a perfect example because we're talking bugs and we're thinking, you know, classical. We're hitting that lid when we think of bugs because that's exactly what you're doing, right? But those bugs that are human-sized bugs are actually bug-sized. And they have some, you know, they could have a weapon, just like that movie. So these movies had human-sized bugs that were the aliens, and these aliens had amazing weapons and technology.
Yeah.
But a human couldn't pick it up and use it. They had to have the same DNA.
Right.
So they were trying to splice these alien bug DNAs with human DNA, and it accidentally happened, and this individual was able to use their technology.
Yeah.
So in a sense, everything I'm trying to point out is exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're creating chimeras. They're creating, you know, genetically modified peoples to be more like the chimeras with a little bit of everything so they can use a little bit of everything. You know, like we're not supposed to mix animal kingdom, human kingdom, and nature kingdom, and they're doing it to the point where there's no more fine lines and you're not going to be able to tell the difference.
Right. And people wonder why the judgment of God is coming.
Yeah, they do. Because here we are in Babylon, arguing about that orange man, this orange man, red, blue, left, right, who's smart, who isn't, who's too old, what's up, what's down. Right? And we're all going to perish the lack of knowledge of these things. We're happily going to, you know, eat our ice cream, watch the next show on TV, and walk right by these crime mirrors thinking, hey, good day, nice to see you, sir. Never even think about it. Because why? We got our limit set. Jumping higher than that or thinking higher outside of that jar, past that lid, is just imaginary and insane to think that that is a possibility.
Right.
Right? And Hermes, Project Hermes goes right into programmable matter. Okay, you think CERN taking two particles and smashing them together to create a big whir. You think they're just throwing these particles out there and hoping they smash into each other? They're programming this matter. You're made up of matter. They can program a carbon element to create the DNA molecule in your DNA. That's programmable matter. Matter which has the ability to change its physical properties, shape, density, modally, like its molecule. So like a photon, it can change itself into a proton. And that's just a rough, explanation. So it can change its physical properties, shape, density, conductivity, optical properties. Right? It's programmable fashion based upon user input and autonomous sensing. It doesn't have, it can be programmed just initially, and then it can start doing its own thing. Programmable matter is thus linked to the concept of material which inherently has the ability to perform information processing. So they can program a single brain cell to go out there and try to become its own brain, and then create its own ability to perform information processing.
Sounds like we've seen this in graphene.
Right. And I'm starting to get that into that.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
a little bit of the history here. It mentions this quick history of the programmable matter is a term originally coined in 1991. So you want to think outside the jar, go above that lid where it's set. The 20-year rule is a common rule. We all know it, but I like to double and triple that, 40 to 60 years. So if they say, hey, we coined that phrase in 91, go back 40, 60 years because they've already been talking about it and doing it.
Right.
Everything that we have as technology that helps us better our lives was created by them
A long time
40,
ago.
60 years ago for their own purposes.
Right. They waited till they figured out how they could use it against us and then gave it to us.
And that is 100% accurate. That's not a theory. It's not a paranoid conspiracy. It is fact.
Yeah.
Because we all use maps to find an address when we're driving, right?
Yeah.
DARPA created GPS. Your search engine that can predict what you're typing or what you want to search.
Yeah.
Created by Google. Google bettered itself, right? Because DARPA released an initiative. They are the ones that started the internet. CERN picked it up and started making their own computers to right? All these sciences are funded by DARPA. The people who became billionaires because they started Google and bettering their search engine was paid to by DARPA.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. 100%.
There's the NSF, the National Science Foundation. And you think that's crazy, that's their funneling. But it's true.
Yeah.
It's called the DARPA. Speaking of clay, right? Claytronics. Carnegie Mellon University and the Claytronics Project. Several research projects funded by DARPA has been a member of ISAT, which is the Carnegie Mellon University. It's shape-shifting, that programmable material, like that you just mentioned, the second generation Terminator that didn't know it was a Terminator, and it could shape-shift itself and be, it could reprogram its body to match the same metal compound as the prison, the jail cell, and then walk right through it. That's shape-shifting. That's exactly what this is.
Yeah, and in witchcraft, they have golems.
Yep, and that's what
which
this
is a lump of clay that's inhabited by a spirit.
Yep. So they're making these chimeras, and they're making these things to be inhabited.
Yeah. These are pretty old articles, too.
They are, yeah. If you look at the dates, they're 2017, 2007. This is nothing new.
Yeah.
You think 2024, going on 25, and we're talking about the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. That's a branch of the Department of Defense, has shape-shifting, programmable, microscopic material organisms that can birth itself into being a bug, or then adapting and evolving from that little mosquito into the dragonfly, and that dragonfly could shapeshift into a bird.
It's like its own form of AI.
100%. Absolutely.
It's like an autonomous AI. It just does what it wants.
Absolutely.
Just check in with us every so often, but you go out and do what you want.
So, and that's it. And that's why I'll say, I'm out in nature and I can climb a tree and see all these bugs while I'm doing it. And the whole time I'm doing it, I have to wonder how much of it is actually natural.
Yeah.
So that brings me into let's go further out of the jar. We're going way out of the jar. All right, let's use our imaginations. Let's try to use our imaginations to have an original idea and thought about this, because everything I've explained in a blatant terms is still old tech. Is still comic book for what they're really doing. Right? This is living materials. And this is where it's going to start. You're going to start thinking I'm crazy. But I've mentioned in other shows, too, when we were talking about, the airplanes. You can see what they're doing. And I said, when you think of that and that airplane, what's got the trail behind it, think of algae. And I'm going to get into why I've been saying that. Engineered Living Materials, ELM, program seeks to revolutionize military logistics and construct in remote, austere, high-risk, and or post-disaster environments by developing living biomaterials that combine the structural properties of traditional building materials with attributes of living systems. So when we're told traditional building materials, you're going to think, post and beam, hammer and nail. But now they are creating living materials that will become a house, that will become a bridge.
Yeah, dude, that's pretty crazy.
So instead of sending a train that has thousands of tons of lumber to go build a base in the wherever, they can just send a big jug of a liquid, the precursor to their living material. And if that sounds so crazy, I'm sure you've heard of liquid wood. Have you ever heard of liquid? You've done a lot of construction and building, right?
Yeah.
You take component A, B, and mix it with D.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what they're doing. But these are living materials. It's a biological living material that will be a house. Will be the table I'm sitting on.
I'm surprised Elon's not talking about shooting this stuff up to Mars to build us houses.
Well, that's it. That's where we're so far behind when we sit here and talk about that person and his rockets that can go up and then come back and land like this. Because, we're trying to figure out how to create an engine, people and all the supplies in the space. And they can just fill it up with a liquid, crash it into something, and that living material can be programmed into shapeshift into whatever they want. So when you think about it, how do we not know the trees are I mean, yes, it is a living material, but is it genetically modified to become a living material? The house that's next door to us could be a living material. Yes, the lumber that created it, the 2x4s that you've been able to go to the store and buy for decades, is a living material. But that's your traditional living material. Imagine being able to pour down fluid A and fluid B, letting them mix for a little while, and then sprinkling a little bit of component C on it, and A, B, and C grows a house.
The Green New Deal.
There you go.
It's called. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Living structural material could open new horizons for engineers and architects. DARPA seeks to develop design tools and methods for creating programmable, self-healing, living building materials. That is 8/5/2016 on this.
Yeah.
Again, 8/5/2016.
Yeah. 58. That number's everywhere now. It's everywhere.
Everywhere. The structural material that are currently used to construct homes, buildings, and infrastructure are expensive. They're expensive to produce and transport, wear out due to age and damage, and have limited ability to respond to changes in their immediate surroundings. Living biological materials like bone, skin, bark, coral, just for an example. I mean, we just talked about them being able to take DNA from bones, skin DNA, bark, coral, tree, algae, mushrooms, and they can mix it all together. So if you think about this building material that could build a house that would look like a house, could have human, tree, coral, DNA in it. These have attributes that provide advantages over the non-living materials people build with. Not only that, but it can adapt. So if there's a tornado, it can adapt to that immediate surrounding.
Dude.
Right?
It's
So
all well and
if-
good till your house turns on you.
Exactly, because now you can get locked out, lock yourself out, be like, oh no, my keys are at work and I drove an hour back home. I'm just gonna kick this window in and fix it later. It can adapt to this human threat.
Right.
And that window now could just make itself into a whatever. You know?
Like Monster House.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and now think about it though, because here's this living material that could have DNA from everything, and you're hooking it up to the internet, putting cameras on it, giving it, what's it? Alexa, hey Alexa, turn my lights on, lock the door.
Right. And if it's alive, it can be inhabited by a demon.
Especially if it's made with graphene.
Yeah.
Okay. So DARPA is launching the Engineered Living Materials program with the goal of creating new class of materials that combine the structural properties of traditional building materials with attributes of living system. Living materials represents a new opportunity to leverage engineered biological to solve existing problems associated with construction and maintenance of building environments. So when I think of this and the construction and maintenance of built environments, I think of monuments we've showed you before, and how they're starting to spew out a black substance.
Right. Yeah.
These old building materials are not enough DNA that can that's compatible with what's being coming out of it, so it can't be inhabited for too long or be completely taken over. Do you understand
Yeah.
where I'm trying to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Living materials represent a new opportunities, large engineered solve. All right, so I read that. Engineered living materials, for short, are materials implemented for the specific purpose of growing and healing themselves and adapting to their environment over time. Consider mycelium fungus. When introduced into a mold, they form and then fed agricultural waste. The mold grows to fill the form, then can be hardened and rendered an insert using heat. So they're trying to explain in under the lid. Now we're back trying to be conditioned that you can grow some mold or grow a fungus in a mold, like a casting, and then let it dry out, and then harden it with some heat. Like, we're not in middle school and we're not making clay projects. It's just ridiculous. They're way beyond that. They say, oh, the trick will be finding that sweet spot in which materials can be encouraged to live with the ability to halt that process when necessary. So, okay, grow into being a 2x4, 12 feet long. You're only 2 inches now, but we want you to grow into a 2x4 to be 12 feet long. So it'll know when it's a complete 2x4, but 12 feet long, and stop growing there. Yeah. So these biological materials can be a plop of mush or a liquid and then grow into a house that we see with doors, windows, shingles. And it's smart, and it's living, and it knows when to stop growing and when to start again. So it could reverse itself out of the house form back into that liquid and be ready to be moved again, or, right? And this information is their early results shared in 2018. So they were sharing results in 2018 when they've been doing this for 40 to 60 years already.
Right. Yeah, you know how I've seen how they some people had to have like bone removed. I don't know if they had bone cancer or something, and they would fill it with a piece of coral, and the coral would grow in and replace the bone. Weird.
100%. Right. So, what they really did was that coral now was genetically modified with some human DNA for your human DNA that's natural to recognize and have a communication with other human DNA and say, okay, I'm cool with you, and allow that coral to start growing in the bone. And that's exactly what this is doing. And so you can, if you want, take a screenshot of this, but I put this article where it came from, shieldengineering.com/blog/what living infrastructure means for engineering. I encourage you to look into this.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I could see it catching
for magazine,
on,
New York University. Huh?
So I could see it catching on, though, to the masses.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, think of all the movies and stuff we've been seeing. Like Groot. This is Groot.
Right.
I am Groot. I'd be your house. That's what it is. Right? And they cartoon it or comic book it.
Yeah.
Because here's this tree, but he looks human and he's interacting with a raccoon that can understand I am. Right. Right. How living materials from algae can best capture carbon. Engineered living materials. Photosynthetic engineered material. Algae. So think about the biomechanical, microelectrical systems that I said are the size of a single cell organism that can live in a drop of water and has some algae DNA. It's an engineered living material.
It can help clean up water.
Living organisms are made up of materials. So let's
put it in the water because it can clean it, and then we can drink it.
So here we go.
Sometimes I wonder.
Recombinant DNA. No, absolutely, and you're saying it with sarcasm and comical relief in your voice, but it's 100% true.
Right.
Just look at how many just this summer since our last show talking about those airplanes. Think about looking across the country. How many lakes?
Yeah.
So the DNA in our DNA, algae, is a promising platform to produce recombinant proteins and other biologicals. Our DNA is created by combining genetic material from multiple sources in a laboratory to create sequences that would not otherwise be found in nature. Microalgae. I know that whole sentence sounds like another sentence from a different article.
Yeah.
This is now talking about microalgae, algae. And they're safe organisms that can be easily grown and contained bioreactors, making them advantage for our DNA production. This minimizes the risk of airborne contaminants and protects the environment from trans genes.
Well, I think some of it got out because I see a lot of trans genes floating around.
That's the thing. There's a whole lot of defense and research is just really attack and find out. You know what I mean? So they're telling you it's for containing and protecting.
Yeah.
But yet, like I said, you'd be hard pressed to not look in the news right now and find a lake anywhere in this country that isn't being closed or they're talking about the algae.
But it did say it's safe, so that makes me feel much better.
Oh, but we're cleaning water. Yeah. That's what we're doing. Right? So here, how are nanoparticles produced from algae? Wait a minute. Yeah, that's right. We've talked about nanoparticles, nanotechnology, nanofibers. There's not a million laboratories, and they're making all these microscopic, a fraction of the size of a single strand of human hair. They're programmable living building materials. And these nanoparticles, they're being bred through algae DNA. A solution containing metal ions is mixed with an extract from the algae. Biochemical compounds present in algae have the ability to reduce the change of metal ions to the state of zero valence. It won't corrode on itself. It won't decay on itself. It won't just be one little medical particle and then go away. It'll stay metal, and they can create more metal from that.
Yeah, dude.
So algae, nanoparticles, and their antibacterial activity. Think about everything we just talked about, from the beetle to the bee, down to the algae. All right. A review. This is from the National Institution of Health now. A review of green synthesis of metal nanoparticles using algae. Nanoparticles produced by algae can compete with standard drugs that have been shown to have the antibacterial, anti-cancer, and the antifungal effects. But all those DNAs, the bacteria, the cancer, the fungal, all of it is recombinant DNA used, programming the precursor of algae. The algae is the living building material.
Right. This is deep, man.
The ability of algae to accumulate metals and reduce metal ions make them a superior contender for the biosynthesis of nanoparticles, and hence they are called bio-nano factories, as both the live and dead dried biomass are used for the synthesis of metallic nanoparticles. So the initial algae that needs light and humidity and water to live, that algae can die, but yet still be a factory. Right? It's creating microalgae, forming a substantial part of the planet's biodiversity, are using usually single-celled colony-forming filamentous photosynthetic microorganisms. So that was the word salad of what I said. It's just it can be one single piece of DNA in a drop of water that creates all that green algae in a lake. That is a biomass that's creating biosynthesis, which is creating more of itself. So if a single particle of algae can create itself at the same time it's creating metal, the next cell is creating its metal, so on and so on and so on and so on. But you got to think that this metal is now programmed to be able to take a part of itself and create more algae. It's a loop.
Right. It's like it's a virus.
So we think, okay, so we cleaned up the algae, it's safe to go swimming in that lake again. But the microscopic single-celled algae left behind metal, creating more algae. Okay.
Right, which will soak into your skin.
Absolutely. And if you're sweating because it's so humid and you're not really sweating, it's more likely the atmosphere is sucking fluids out of you.
Yeah.
All right. So there's these, I'm not going to try to hack them because I'm not going to be able to pronounce them as many times as I screwed up. So these here, we got the chlorophyta, carophyta. These are strains or types of algae. All right, and bacteria comes from algae too. Algae comes from bacteria, and bacteria comes from algae. So if one's producing one and the other vice versa is creating metals, creating nanoparticles, okay? And it's promoting the production of AU, AG, and PT nanoparticles. AG, silver. PT, platinum. AU, gold.
Wow.
It can make those. It can spit out living material that will grow into silver, gold, and platinum. So we've discussed a lot about the airplanes and the aluminum and the barium, right? So when I was saying, well, when we talk of this, when I mentioned this, I said, think of algae. That is why. Because NASA's satellite image shows lakes concerning algae blooms visible from space. It has occurred earlier and in greater abundance than in typical years. That's California. That's just one quick one I popped up. How many hundreds of lakes and ponds and bodies of water are in New England, New Hampshire alone?
Well, I go fishing all the time. And I was bass fishing at this pond 2 weeks ago. And now I can't even find a place to cast a line in because it's just chock full.
Right.
It's so
and
full.
That biomass came from somewhere.
Yeah.
And it started building more of itself.
Right. Yeah, it's bad.
So this article's from June 22nd, 2024. So that's 6, 6, 6.
Of course it is. Makes good sense, right?
Right. And it was released at 7 p.m. and it's a 2-minute read. So here we are. What you need to know about that cyanobacteria, algae that will grow into, create, produce this bacteria. This can make people, pets, and wildlife sick. Stay safe by knowing what to look for and how to respond. If something doesn't look right, then it could be dangerous. It could be a dangerous toxic wound. Stay away. Now, I'm not suggesting that's phony and go drink that water if you see it. I'm just saying, I'm crazy for thinking that's a chemtrail. I'm crazy for thinking that plane is spitting some aerosol out. But then this happens over and over. And this is New Hampshire lakes.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of them look like that where I go fishing. They got that stuff everywhere.
Yeah, and that's a new article too, yeah. And I've been seeing it too.
It's bad.
It's getting horrible.
Yeah.
These are some of the Vermont lakes and bodies of water. So, I mean, getting sick and having diarrhea and the pukes is the immediate bacteria. But if this thing can create silver, gold, the aluminum, so you got this into you and it made you have diarrhea for a day and you're not sick anymore and you got over it. But what is it producing for building materials inside of you? It already is genetically modified to have some human DNA traces in it, so your body will accept it.
Right.
You see where I'm going with all this? So this there isn't a man making this tiny little insect. He isn't giving birth to this biomechanical and electrical mechanical insect that in his petri dish. These smart programmable matter particles are falling down, landing in water sources when the humidity and the temperature is right, starts growing building materials that a bug comes out of.
Right. Yeah, mosquitoes are born in the water.
And they have plant, fungus, and human DNA in them.
Yeah.
And they're biomechanical.
It's funny, I pictured like this mad scientist with like a high-powered microscope and these really tiny tools putting together this little bug.
Right? That's that lid. Exactly. That is what I mean by not having an original thought, because now we're thinking, wow, I'm actually using my imagination. I'm going to have a thought about this, and you picture some Dr. Nefario.
Yeah.
I wonder why you wanted to be robot.
Yeah.
Because we're jumping to the top of that jar. We're hitting our lid. Okay? To think that algae being projectiled or aerosoled out of a non-human controlled flyable machine is creating this lake of green, and then a dragonfly is birthed out of that is more of an original thought than thinking Dr. Nefario is making a mosquito. It could even start off as a mosquito and become that dragonfly. So where are we? Okay. Advanced Research Project. Okay. Technology developed under the project will benefit other projects within this program. Program developed the warfare scale graphene. Here we are, right on the defense. DARPA's.
Oh, yeah.
Top, University of Central Florida. Breakthrough in graphene research. Chanda and Lundberg, these two guys that work for a special interest for DARPA because they need turntable infrared cameras that operate and create graphene. New manufacturing methods for producing large area graphene foil. Graphene materials. So now we were just talking about programmable material, programmable living organisms. We were talking about algae that can make metals. Do you realize, so let's let's talk about the Tesla, the car driving people who say, I'm 100% carbon free. Completely going to eliminate my carbon footprint. But you're a carbon-based human.
Yeah.
All life forms. I just read to you earlier, DARPA said that we all have the same makeup in our DNA. Just the sequences in the strands is what makes us physically look different. So there's, hydrogen, there's carbon. Right? So what do you think graphene is made up 100% of? Carbon.
Carbon, yeah.
Atom with graphene sensors could provide unprecedented insights into brain structure and function. DARPA's ReNet project. Graphene sensors could provide unprecedented insights, could teach them new, forbidden knowledge about our brain structures and their function. That is 2014.
Yeah, before all the hammer came down.
So if algae produces carbon and graphene is 100% carbon, where do you think this nature graphene is coming from?
Yeah.
The NeuroFast program seeks to enable unprecedented visualization and decoding of brain activity to better characterize and mitigate threats to the human brain.
Oh, they're doing it to help us.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Where there's threats to human brains.
We're trying to help you against the threats to your brain.
We don't know what they are yet.
Yeah, we haven't
But
created
we
them.
know how to. Right. So what? Basically, these graphene, aluminum bugs can mingle with you and become a threat to your brain, right? So basically, eventually these things are going to get into your brain and they're going to understand it so much, kind of like Minority Report, where here I'm starting to think about putting this presentation together. They can reboot my brain for me. You understand what I'm saying, where I'm going?
Yeah. And this would be, I've talked about graphene being Nephilim DNA, but this would give a twist on why your phone knows what you're thinking. Right? The demons in the technology, right, can read these things that are in your mind, picking up all these waves.
Because there's so much graphene being produced in nature and so many cross contaminants of them mixing plant, fungi, algae, and human DNA all together with technology. There's the human DNA in this. You don't think it is, but it is.
Yeah.
Here's an article from 2013. Green chemistry from 2013. Functional multi-layer graphene algae hybrid material formed using vortex fluidics. So multi-layer graphene and algae. So believe it or not, as much as graphene is a metal or a carbon fiber type thing, and it's made from carbon, it has DNA. It has its own DNA. They wouldn't be able to mix it with fungus, algae, or produce it from algae, or mix it with technology like the phone if it didn't have DNA. What DNA is that? Nephilim.
Yeah. 100%.
So,
I'm starting to become convinced that the fallen angels were metal.
I believe so too. Like the Allspark, right?
Yeah, like the Transformers. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I think they're metal beings. Like they were. We would. I mean, there's probably some spiritual material, but we would call it metal.
Absolutely. So, and what we've been programmed or conditioned to believe as sorry, I just totally spaced. Oh, as supernatural. Right? That's supernatural. That's spiritual, supernatural. But to God it's natural. That's why it's hard for us to fathom. Okay? And they've hijacked that thought, period.
Yeah.
Because it was all them, right? So I'm gonna read just the first letter. This can get into a very word salad. Thank you for saying that the last time I had a show, by the way. It stuck with me. So it basically explains that this microfluids platform are effective in exfoliating graphite, exfoliating, expanding, exaggerating graphite in water, and then decoding the multi-layer 2D sheets in the surface of microalgae cells, meaning it could be graphene that hit the water and then created the algae, then created the gold and the aluminum, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a chemistry give and take relationship, and it can be airborne, but then really gets into its biofactory in water. And now you got to think, we've been conditioned to believe we're 90% water?
Yeah, some high percentage.
Yeah. So here's adaptable graphene made for scalability. Revolutionary patent graphene technology for high quality production and licensed pioneered through a global collaboration of graphene experts.
Look at that picture. There's 3 hollow green ones.
3, yep.
There's 3 solid blue ones. There's 3 solid green ones. Down here, there's 3 hollow purpley ones. So you got 666, 666, 666, 666.
666.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's why, and it's a collaboration of graphene experts.
This is why in Revelation it says the number of the beast is the number of a man, because man is made of carbon 6, and graphene is number 6 and 6. So together they are 6, 6, and 6.
And that is exactly what the picture is saying. That's exactly what I thought when I saw it, and every other picture on this site. You're absolutely right. It's biblical. It looks just like a bunch of hexagons and a honeycomb, and we're artistic.
Right.
It's biblical. They're saying that straight out.
Yeah.
Here's industries and applications. Here we're gonna put a little comic book sugarcoat on it. Revolutionizing existing business operations and products. So like graphene coatings, rubber and elastomers, polymers. Here's one we've talked about: asphalt and infrastructure.
Yeah.
So take your crude oil in your vehicle, becoming car man. Your asphalt has graphene in it. So you're driving on the infrastructure road, creating that circle, triangle.
Yeah.
In a living machine.
In a serpentine manner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Batteries and energies, textiles and fibers. Believe it or not, Levi's, your jeans have graphene in it. In your bottling and packaging.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All that stuff.
automotive, lubricants and grease, combustible solutions. The next step in product innovation for a better and more sustainable future. Anti-graphene is breaking industry barriers by having the most environmentally friendly production process in the world through our self-discovered green click chemistry process. Exactly everything I just said. They're creating it from plants, and plants are creating it. Algae is a plant. But if you mix in a little bit of mushroom DNA, fungi DNA, it's now a chimera.
Yeah, and if you, I don't know, put some medicine DNA in it, you could grow medicine on a mass scale.
And it could just be an algae bloom. You can't go swimming in that right now. And it's producing that exact thing.
Yep, so that when you do go swimming in it, you will now be all meted up and good to go.
Or the bioelectrical mechanical systems that are birthed within it and then grow and evolve out of it.
Yeah.
And then is autonomous and goes, hey, that guy didn't go swimming in here. I'm gonna go be a mosquito. You understand what I'm saying? It sounds crazy. Sounds completely imaginary. What a imagination, sci-fi imagination I have, huh?
Yeah.
So here's the last page scrolling down on that anti-graphene internet site. Global collaboration of graphene expertise. You see the cube, and the cube, and the cube that creates a cube around what we would recognize as our globe or the Earth.
Satan's prison there, Metatron's cube.
It's not saying exactly. We're not individually in a cube. They're putting a whole series of Metatron's cubes and putting us in our own, the whole thing in a prison.
Yeah.
So here, the required, isn't it? That's exactly what I see. We're holding you in a prison.
Yeah. Well, because the globe is a prison.
It is.
It's a prison for your mind.
100%.
To think that you live on this spinny ball floating in eternity that's a prison because you're stuck here. You can't leave. There's no point to it. You're just here.
That's the lid on the jar. That's our prison. Okay. So the required graphene expertise to discover our patent green click chemistry production industry defying graphene consists. Chemistry producing industry defying graphene technical director, both from different backgrounds in South America, but with the common goal. So there's these remarkably different PhD people from all over the prison are doing everything I just talked about, but yet going past. So they're doing it in ways we can't even think of right now.
Right.
And like I mentioned earlier, the creeping black slime taking over historic buildings around the world. Researchers reveal monuments from Washington to Angkor Wat now hit by impossible to remove biofilm all over the world, from Jefferson's Memorial to Egypt to the Angkor Wat. And this was published.
Yeah,
August
I was just looking at
3rd.
that. Yeah.
August 23rd, 2016. Okay. It puts a whole new idea of why these monuments, including gravestones all over, have this creeping black slime, this graphene this Nephilim DNA.
Yeah. Man, we were ahead of the curve on a lot of this stuff, buddy.
I think so. I mean, that to me, this was an edifying display of for a lot of the things we've been saying.
Yeah.
And everything from me saying when you think of the trails in the sky, think of algae, to when you get in your vehicle and start driving, you become car man.
Yeah.
Like you and the car become a living entity. That's why you get angry.
Right.
Right?
Iron
Because
mixed
you're
with
getting
clay.
further away from
Yeah.
your connection with God. Right. It's me driving my car on my time. Me. Not thank you, God, for giving me the ability to have a free open road to make it to work safely.
Yeah.
It's me and my time. Get out of my way, because you're become another entity. And a lot of this is just telling you from the Department of Defense Advanced Research. You understand. But all right. Okay. Well, I'm going to end it there because we did 2 full hours.
Yeah, man, that was awesome.
And
That was a good presentation, brother.
Good. Thank you. So, I see we had a pretty good turnout.
Yeah, man, people were digging the topic. They were definitely picking up what you're putting down.
Cool. Yeah, I was engulfed in this and could see that there was some people commenting, but I didn't get over there. So, if there was any questions that you have, feel free to leave them in the comments. Leave them, come back and ask again. If you go in and research any of this, look into any of it, and come back with questions, it'd be awesome. Great. I encourage it. And if some of it's scary and you feel like you want to pull your hair out and kick the door open and go running down the road screaming because of this information is scary, and thinking about what they potentially could do terrifies you, pray on it, meditate on it, ask God what he thinks, what he wants you to do with it.
Yeah, and they give you peace about it.
We're trying to get outside of that jar for all of us. Keep your relationship with God. Don't let any of this distract you from that, and that's basically what it wants to do. But with that said, I appreciate everybody tuning in, putting up with the technical difficulties, and paying attention. I greatly appreciate it, and I love you all. Thank you very much. Till next time, God bless. Stay vigilant.
God bless, Franz. Thank you. It's a good show. All right, guys. That is the end of tonight's show. And not a moment too soon, because to do this show, I have to close my doors. Otherwise, my air conditioning would drown us out. You guys are all very welcome. Thank you for coming and showing your support. We appreciate it more than we can express. Of course, all glory goes to God. We don't know any of this stuff unless God makes us aware of it. That's why we have to look beyond the veil. And yeah, I appreciate all you guys coming in here tonight. So happy to be back up and running. Strike is over. I just have to be on semi-good behavior. I have uploaded the video over to Rumble that they removed, which was Revelation Part 9, live Bible study. Yeah, YouTube removed it. They gave me a strike because it was the study was fine, but when I started talking about the sickness and the medicine and I just kind of went off. They weren't down with that. So it was the fellowship section that got me booted. They said it was for medical misinformation and that I was telling lies about proven safe stuff and so I put it over on Rumble and I'm going to remove the fellowship section and upload it back on to YouTube so that at least the lesson part will be on YouTube. But yeah, and I'll leave the when I upload the lesson part, the Bible study part to YouTube, I will put the Rumble link in the bottom for the complete thing because the fellowship was awesome. Yeah, it was incredible. A lot of stuff we covered there. A lot of stuff people need to know. And I know exactly why YouTube took it off because it was just too much information. And they just can't have that. So I will, now that I can post stuff, I will be uploading, sharing links, and we'll be able to get over there and check that out. But yeah, it is up on Rumble. I had lost it, and the only way I was able to recover it is that part of the process. Let me see if I can show you guys real quick. Let me move this over here. I think I called it 111222. Part of the process, I looked for this thing everywhere and I couldn't find it. But when I went on to I decided to go through the strike policy. So you can see here that this is why they took it down. That my content posed a serious risk. So in order to take action against it or appeal it, they allow you to watch your video, which I was absolutely amazed by. So after days of hunting for a way to retrieve this video and being unsuccessful, the Lord allowed me to, I was like, okay, I wasn't going to appeal it because I knew it was pointless. But the Lord was directing me to go through this process. And when I did, there's a section that they put in called Look at Your Content. And so what I did was I started playing it and I screen recorded the whole thing. So I now have a copy of this copy. So the audio is probably not as great as it was originally, but I do have it. So that's a blessing in itself. A lot of work goes into these Bible studies, and the fellowship's always, been awesome. So when it disappeared, I was really bummed out that I got a strike and I wouldn't be able to do a couple shows. But I was devastated that they stole my video because I didn't record it. Usually I download them and upload it to Rumble, but I didn't do it on Monday or Tuesday, and Wednesday morning I got up, it was gone. So I was really bummed out. But I will be downloading the shows from now on a lot faster. And, will you be tattooed up? Yeah, I have many tattoos. They're all very old. I haven't gotten a tattoo in over 20 years, probably. Well, no, that's not true. Because I did get my youngest daughter's name tattooed, so... probably 13 years. But before that, it was probably when I was like 20, which was, 27 years ago. So, but yeah. So, anyways, God is awesome. Gave the video back. I will post the lesson part up onto YouTube because there's nothing wrong in that. That way people can have access to it, and because otherwise there's going to be a gap in the lessons. But yeah, good to be back. Super happy to be here. Yeah, I'm excited. And I was really pumped to do this show. Franz brought us a good presentation, as always. And, yeah, I just love his shows. He's always bringing some really interesting things. Yeah, thank you, Hoku. Yeah, definitely please like and share. Subscribe if you're not. Well, you must be if you're chatting in the room, because I make that a... I don't know what you would call it. You kind of got to in order to chat. I just figure it would slow down people who just want to come in here and run their mouths. Because we do get those from time to time, but not none of you guys. You guys are awesome. Glad to see you all in here. Appreciate all your comments. Appreciate all your support. Yeah. You all are welcome, and I thank you all in return. And may the Lord watch over and bless you all. But I am turning into a sweat pot in here. I really got to open my door and get out into my air conditioning. So until Saturday night, you guys, I will see you then. Oh, and I do want to tell you, I got some awesome stuff coming next Wednesday. I am going to be relating the human body and the human experience to the processing and creation of alcohol. It's absolutely nuts. So I'll leave you with that to stew on. And I will talk to you guys soon. God bless each and every one of you and your families. And until Saturday night, take care and good night, everybody. God bless.